Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Azra Hura Najwa and I'm from English Education 2024. Here I want to rate talking about English teacher strategies in managing larger classes case study. Abstract. This study arrived at finding one English teacher strategies is managing large classes and two students participation toward their English teacher strategies. The design of this research is quality with a case study approach. This study improved for English teacher and 10 students in one state Madrasah Sanawiyah in Palembang, Indonesia. The data were collected through observation, interviews, and document review. Thematic analysis was conducted across a data set. The findings demonstrated that planning the lesson, organizing and controlling the student, managing classroom communication and talking time, then giving writing and timely feedback on student works were the strategies applied by the English teachers. The use of these strategies was positively perceived by the student that they could have a better understanding, practice mutual respect, and enjoy the lesson. Therefore, it might be a good idea to review teacher strategies in the study to address the difficulty of teaching English in large class time setting. Introduction. English plays very important roles in many parts of human life. It can be used in education and business to get information, job, and entertainment. Ready 2019 16 Ricard 2014 also adds that English may be required for social survival and employment for new immigrants and English-speaking countries, an essential tool for education and business for immigration in English-speaking countries, an essential tool for education and business for some learners and languages of travel and related activities of sightseeing for others, and a popular language for the media, entertainment, the internet, and other forms of electronic communication. It can be concluded that English holds prominent function in many aspects of human life. Learning English is essential for today's generation to adapt it to global communication, literal media, and work in the present and future. 3. 4. In Indonesian, English is included as a subject in the school curriculum. This is supported by the 27 which task the English took and use of foreign language in Indonesia. It is the first foreign language learned of compulsory subject at school. The within the student understanding of English as foreign languages. This English is the first foreign language officially taught as a compulsory subject and student from junior secondary school in Indonesia. In teaching English, a foreign language, teachers as facilitators of student learning take a variety of roles with the classroom. One of the important tools of a teacher in teaching and learning process is being a classroom manager. As a classroom manager, a teacher should have a set of skills and techniques to create a positive and productive learning environment for the students and techniques. A creator a positive and productive learning environment for the students and technique a create positive productive learning for the students. Teachers cannot successfully teach their students if they are not control of the class. The control of students by the teachers in the classroom tend to regarded as the goal of classroom managing. In summary, effective English teaching and learning cannot take place in poorly managed this classroom. Class size is one of the influential matters to managing the classroom. Argue that it can impact classroom managing significantly. The size of class may affect the teacher's classroom managing. It can make influence the success or failure of classroom management. Class size relates to the number of students in class. It refers to actual number of students taught by a teacher. Yusuf and Bello 2918, there are excess size for small large class. However, according to Brown, for effective language learning, a class should have not more than 12 students. A classroom with no many students often presents some problem for the teachers, such as a lack of individual teacher-student attention. Fewer opportunities for large class is usually hot, red, and noisy. It affects the teach process and student academic performance. As it also reduce effective classroom control. To overcome the problem of large class, teachers need to have strategies to improve student learning achievement with optimal classroom management. Several studies investigated pedagogical strategies that teachers use in teaching in large class to create positive student-teacher interaction. Solis and Turner report that self-disclose positive student-teacher interaction. Solis and Turner report that self-disclosure, caring leadership, and making the class feel smaller are the strategies to promote positive introduction in large class. Haddad claims that teachers should move around the class to reduce physical and social distance and help the student in learning. In short, strategies have to be used by teachers to resolve large class management problem. The problem of large class are also faced by the English teacher at one of the state Islam junior high school in Palembang. The school is also likely to have class of large size based on our preliminary to the result. A teacher had to teach 42 to 45 class of large size. Based on our preliminary student result, a teacher had to teach 42 to 45 students in each class. It was really a forwarded class and difficult for the teacher to control. The students were very noisy, discomfort and lack of individual attention when the other problem in the class. However, the English teacher had their strategies to manage the classroom and make the students feel comfortable in learning. We conducted this research to know more detail about English teacher strategies in managing a large class and student perceptions of the strategies used by their English teacher in managing a large class. In specific, this research was aimed at one, exploring English teacher strategies in managing large classes, and two, expressing the student perceptions toward the strategies used by their English teachers. Literature review. Teaching English as foreign language. Teaching is way to convey knowledge to students. Teaching may be defined as a process to help students learn how to do something and understand what knowledge is. Process to help students learn how to do something and understand what knowledge is given. Likewise, the work of teaching includes broad cultural competence and relationship sensitivity, communication skill, and the combination of figure and imagination fundamental to student effective practice. Thus, the student can get knowledge from the teaching process by the teacher. Teaching English is an important job. The objective of teaching English they basically relate to the cognitive and psychomotor the mind that the student can understand the English grammar, speak, read, and write English correctly. Teaching English as a foreign language requires teachers to deliver the English language articulately and interestingly to conclude students to improve their English skill through listening, speaking, reading, and writing activities. The role of teacher in managing the class. As a facilitator of student learning, a teacher takes on a variety of roles within the classroom. One of the most important roles of a teacher is being a classroom manager. Ricard and Roach explained that the teacher is responsible for determining the content of what is taught, setting the interactional patterns of classroom activities, and keeping the student organized and focused on the lesson. This indicated the important role of a teacher in determining students' success in learning. Mm, a teacher with strong classroom management can create an environment for students to learn, behave in new, different way without distraction. The ability of teacher to organize classroom and manage the behavior of the student is critical to achieving positive education of customers. Effective learning can begin with the creation on exciting learning atmosphere. Therefore, classroom management is very important. In the teaching learning process, the teacher has to give the student facilities to make the teaching learning process easy activity and more comfortable. Classroom management strategies. Management refers to skill in organization and presentation of lessons so that all pupils are actively engaged in learning. Classroom control and classroom discipline are the most commonly used concepts to refer to classroom management during teaching. Management strategy is a way that is applied by the teacher in classroom with various aspects and goals to get achievement in the learning process. According to Eastman, Edward, and Kuzman, the management strategy is the lead the student back to the lesson to interrupt our student learning. By the definition, management strongly focus on the process of learning goal setting, policy development, and planning to achieve objectives. It can control the aim of learn itself. Classroom management is what teachers do to ensure that students engage in the task in hand. Moreover, Cooper states that classroom management refers to the action teacher to take create an environment that is respectful, caring, orderly, and productive and support and facilitates academic and social emotional learning. The ability of teachers of organize classroom and manage the behavior of their students is critical to achieving positive education outcomes. Effectively, learning can begin with creating an exciting learning atmosphere. Therefore, classroom management is clearly very important and needs serious attention. The teacher should apply appropriate strategies to manage their classroom so that content and student learning can occur. Large classes. The definition of large classes may differ in different contexts. According to UNESCO, in some countries, 25 to 30 students per teacher is considered large, while in other countries this isn't as normal or even quite small. At the same time, Brown emphasizes that for language learning, a class is considered large when it has more than dozen of students. This implies that the class occupied by more than 12 students can lead to some difficulties in dealing with individual in the more than 12 students can lead to some difficulty in dealing with individuals and the classroom. The teacher often perceives large class and as troublesome, difficult, and problematic as compared to smaller classes. The large class have more students than available facilities can support. Trang argues that teaching in such large class is really burden to teachers. The in it difficult to engage the student in learning, and learners can feel that it's hard to participate in classroom activity. It means that in class both teacher and student can feel challenges. Becker Wastrup described the challenge accompanied by teacher and student is in large English classes. The challenges are the difficulty of the teacher in keeping everyone's attention, lack of student motivation in learning English, the difficulty of student in bearing the teacher explanation, lack of opportunity of teacher in helping weaker student, attendance can be poor and irregular, leading to lack of continuity. Time consuming in taking the register, teachers can have too much marking to do and fair research to make learning interesting. Teacher strategies in teaching English in large class. In teaching large class, teachers should prepare some strategies to deal with various students with different ability and personality and provide them with the opportunity to achieve their learning objectives. Some researchers have conducted study about English teacher strategies in managing large classes. Solis and Turner investigated teacher pedagogical strategies to create positive student interaction to control student and interaction challenges. They approach to several strategies like sub-discourse, carrying leadership, and making the class feel smaller has positive implication for the student learning performance. In addition, Becker Westrope mentioned that the teacher's strategies in managing large classes such as one planning, two classroom management, three organization, four group and pair work, five teacher task consists of balancing teacher and student talking time, giving clear instruction, reasons for using student first language in the classroom, using consistent language, question techniques, 6. Managing class with mixed ability that are dealing with weak, average, and stronger student. 7. Correction and marking. 8. Marking and self-evaluation. These strategies are required for successful large class handling. Methodology. Research design participants and local of the study. In the study, we use qualitative research design with case study approach. Case study in one of two approaches used to investigate an issue that happened in one place. Craswell explained that a case study in the study of an issue explored through one of more class within the bonded system or multiple bonded system over time. Took the tile in depth data collection involving multiple sources of information. We use this approach because the major data collection were in the form quality data to find out strategies to English teacher in managing a large class and preparation of students on strategy used by their English teachers. Additionally, a choir case study was used in the study because the findings of the study might not be generalized to the other state Islamic junior high school in Indonesia. Is selection the participants of the study use a forceful sampling technique. We relied on our judgment in choosing the teacher and student to participate in this study. Purposeful sampling the why research intentionally select individuals for study. The research is used as maximum variation sampling strategy to develop many perceptive and identifying important common patterns. Or research participant considered of our English teacher and 10 students at one state. Madrasah Islamia Samania in Palembang, Indonesia, quantitative research does not need to have a large number or participation. Therefore, the participants were selected because they were likely to generate useful data for this research. This English teacher will select based on a set certain characteristics. They had a process a degree in English language education and have been taking English for at least 5 years as an important umbrella of teachers' quality. The student was selected solely based on the teacher's experience with their classes. We matched with the participants real names and personal data to protect the identification, and we informed our participants regarding this issue. Thus, the name of our research participants were initials. Data collection and analysis. Interview observation with note taking and document review were complete to collect the research data. Note taking during observation is necessary to support the data informed interview. The observation sheet considered to even identicals about teachers' classroom management strategies adapted from Becker and Westrop theory. Each educator considered of the strategy adapted several items with a total of 24 items to identify English teacher strategies in managing large classes. Direct observation were concluded in each classroom to get advice. Then each participant was interviewed to obtain information about teacher strategies in managing large class and student participants toward the strategies. We applied one on one interview with open-ended question. We record to interview by using smartphone. We also reviewed several documents such as teacher lesson plans and course books for identificational information. The data, the data gained from the observation and interview were analyzed by using thematic analysis to determine information about the English teacher strategies in managing large classes and students. Participation of the strategy used by their English teachers in managing large classes. First, we prepared, organized, and read the data from observation and interview. In the process, we read all transcriptions and coded the data related to the study's research question. Then we use the coding process to generate a description from the data. We need terms from the code, the interconnected. The terms interconnecting terms mean that the research connected to terms to display a chronology of requests for of even when quantitative research general a theoretical or conceptual model made personal interpretation from the terms of code as the final summary of the research concerning research question. Ethical consideration. In the research, we use triangulation to validate the accuracy of our research finding gained from data collection. Triangulation is a corroborated evidence processed by difficult individuals. Subsequently, there are six techniques of triangulation such investigator triangulation, combined levels triangulation, methodology triangulation, theoretical triangulation, time triangulation, and space triangulation. We apply technique of mathematical triangulation is the study which we use a different method on the same object study to obtain more comprehensive data, provide confirmation of findings, trust the data from observation with confirmed by the data from interview, and five versa. Finally, to data we combine to convert each other to enhance our understanding of English teacher strategies in managing large classes and student participation. The English teacher strategies. Findings. The research finding answered by two research questions in the study. One, what were the English teacher strategies in managing large classes at one stage Madrasah Sanawi and Palembang? And two, what were the student perception on the strategies used their English teachers in managing large classroom at one stage Madrasah Sanawiyah in Palembang? English research strategies in managing large classes. Based on the result of the data analysis, we found the English teachers managing a larger classes and several strategies terms and on the channel from thematic analysis can be seen in the table 1. Planning the lesson. 1. All of the teacher prepare lesson plan before teaching. Most of them prepare their course book to add to materials and the textbook. They also order English learning sources such as other print materials, video, and songs. 2. Organizing and controlling the student. All the students set their own class Classroom works, for example, directionally used in learning the full works rewards and plannings for better learning motivation and classroom discipline practices in learning. Some of the changes of the student eating a regimen to control learning direction and maintain student learning engagement. Some of the move sound the classroom to give individual learning attention of students to make them accessible to all the students. Most of them attempt to remember the names of students in the class. 3. Managing classroom communication and talking time. All of the students and use both English and Indonesian language to communicate with their students to avoid misunderstanding. All of them deliver the lesson with their clear interaction. All of encourage of the student ask question about the lesson and ensure the understanding of the material. For giving writing and finally feedback. Some of the teachers mark and correct student work to help them improve their work. One of them provide examples of what required television and returns to work timely of to the students. The terms of cadet describe to able to above were expand followers based in data obtained from observation interview. We found that one English teacher's strategies managing large class was assumed with the scheme of teachers' work. In this case, the teacher prepared lesson plans across book before teaching to list the structure for lesson the data gained from the interview the first English teachers. I prepared everything necessary before teaching. Meanwhile, 82, 83, and 84 also share similar answer. They explain their own lesson plans, how them teach to they provide the online to running objective and means to accomplishing the specific English classroom activities. They describe they have prepared course books and teaching. They also use other source of English language learning, for example, 82 study. To complete my explanation, I use my course book and other such as other painted materials, video, and songs to added material which are not available in the textbooks. 81 and 84 also supported this to providing similar information in organizing and controlling the classroom. The Texas the set classroom rules, managing the students' content arranges move around the classroom and remember students' names. All English teachers set their own classroom rules. For example, the student need to use a dictionary in learning and unfamiliar words. One of teachers named 81 said. Yes, I always ask my student to bring in such a dictionary to learn the correct spelling, pronunciation, and definition of unfamiliar words. Moreover, 82, 83, and 84 express the same information best at 84 stated. I will give punishment to the student when they have spelling errors if they do not bring the dictionary, do not do their homework, or if they do not come to the class one time. The punishment educate them as well beneath the of the students, such as they have to memorize some words of right running reports. Meanwhile, 81 also had a similar option from observation. We found that some English teachers asked their student who did not bring the dictionary, and the student spontaneously referred the dictionary of the show the teacher that they had the dictionary. For instance, the teacher assigned the student who did not bring a dictionary to come forward and memorize some English word. Once they had finished the assignment well, the teacher gave them a push the appreciation for their efforts in learning. Also, they made student discipline in classroom. They asked the student to be meet and wear study school uniforms, come to class on time, not car, sat, and describe other students during the lesson. Interruption explanation that move during the class. Another strategy applied the teacher is manning large classes. This to assume that the student was were at the back sitting position might be not have attention. For example, one of teacher 84 researched that in Dutch class I always given attention to all my students by moving around the classroom. Sometimes the students are talking to each other during the lesson, so it's important for me to move around to control my student. Subsequently, we asked them as the purpose of moving around the classroom, a teacher 84 said. I do that so all of my students could see and listen to my explanation clearly. Besides 81 also are good that moving around the classroom allowed me to use to see and help my student in learning instead of just explain the lesson from my desk. We found that when the student made noisy during the lesson, the teacher walked toward them and rearranged their seating arrangement to maintain their learning enjoyment. We also found that English teacher attempt to remember the student names, checking student attended by calling their names. For instance, of one of the English teacher 82 said, teaching in large class can be easier when I remember the name of students. I could call ask the student easily and quite without wasting time to look at the attendance list. Meanwhile, the student 83 and 84 also explained that calling students by their name could indicate respect and make the student feel recognized as individual in large class. Managing classroom communication was also a strategy used by the English teachers in managing large classes. They use both English and Indonesian language to communicate with their students of avoid misunderstanding. For example, one of the teachers communicated 83 stated, in teaching English I cannot use full English because the student cannot understand it well. I use English when the words or sentences are simple and familiar to students. Sometimes I use English first and then translate them into Indonesian. The observation that when the teachers delivered by material English, the students some difficult to understand and they just stayed silent. But when the teacher used Indonesian, most of the students showed reaction and give response such as nodding their heads, giving communication or ask question. Managing talking time was also a means of communication management by the teachers during the lesson. Talking questions were viewed by K, so helping to students learn and practice their English. One of the teacher 83 told. I explained the material front of the class to make students understand the lesson easily. In addition, 82 also argued that I have a target for students to make them speak of the classroom, so the talking time between teacher and student must be balanced, such as a no encourage the student to speak about the lesson which has already been explanation from the simple thing around them in the classroom. If I spend the whole lesson talking to my student, but have less an opportunity to learn and part, practice communication. An English teacher use the questioning technique to have the student talk. For example, 84 said, when I have explanation the subject matter, I ask the student if they have some question. If there is no question from the student, I will ask them some question related to my explanation. Making a correction students work could help students recognize, diagnose, and refresh the assessment. Some of English teachers marked and corrected all the student works. English teacher named 82 answered. Although my class consists of many students, I also check my students' work, mark their mistakes, give the right answer on their works, and return the work timely and ask them to correct their mistakes. This indicated that the student realized that their written feedback and student assignment was important to enable the student evaluate and improve their works. Student participation of the teacher strategies is managing large classes. Referring it the result of analysis, we found that the majority of the students positively precise the strategies used by the English teacher in managing large classes. Them and this gain from the thematic analysis was described in table 2. At the understand of the lesson. The majority of the students understand the lesson when the teacher explain the material in tone language English in Indonesian. Most of them understand the lesson when the teacher explains the material in a simple and clear manners. Other students understand the lesson when the teacher explains the material in a loud voice. Pressing mutual respect. Some students avoid the classroom rules because they do not want to disrupt their friends. Some other students avoid the classroom rules because they respect their teachers. Creating learning comfort. Most of the students were comfortable when the teacher approved them to provide individual attention and assistance in learning. Some of them were enjoyed learning English with their friendship in several types of eating arrangement. In the learning process teacher, I use some strategies to make students and interest in the lesson. For example, they use two languages in teaching in English and Indonesian. They use English at the beginning the lesson to motivate the student to practice their English and active their background knowledge related to the material to study. Then for further explanation, the teacher mostly taught in Indonesian. Most of the students claim that they could understand the material when the English teachers explained in two language English to Indonesian. For example, the student named CTQ explained, I do not understand. My teacher explained when the ET4 speak English too much. Meanwhile, other student with initial O, A, R, E, Ch, M, Z, and D, A said similar option. In addition, one student OA also said, I just keep quiet when our English teacher 81 mostly talk in English. I can respond to her explanation when she translates into Indonesian. Moreover, our other students with initial AA, CM, and RE give similar answer. Most of the students said that it was easier for them to understand the lesson of teacher explain the lesson simply and consciently. For example, one student named AA said that my English teacher at 82 give a brief explanation and clear example of the lesson. I can understand the lesson with her example and explanation, and then I directly do not exercise given. Another student RR also give a similar answer. Meanwhile, the student named CTQ state that when my English teacher 81 explained a lesson in loud voice, I can focus on her explanation. Other student OA and A key shared similar information. On the other hand, a student with initial ECA argue that my English teacher's 82 sometimes speak in soft voice. I find it difficult to understand her explanation, especially when a class is noisy. Other students also supported this opinion. The relationship between student and teacher in the classroom established with mutual rapport. Students listen to teacher and avoid the classroom rules. Based on the result interview, we found the student would run mutual respect order from rules of the class. Students are claim that we have to avoid the rules by our English teacher 81. For example, we may not come at the desk class, have the brain out, the sectionary be polite so others. Another student AA described when I want to late class I might be disrupt my teacher and friends so it better to come early. Other student named CMDA and I give a similar answer. Discussion. In managing large class, the teacher conducted several classroom management strategies. All of the English teachers claim that they use the lesson plan strategy to manage the large class. The teacher used this lesson plan as guide in determine what and how to lesson will be taught as well as how learning will be avoided. Lesson plans also enable teachers to managing large classroom effectively with a detailed outline of teaching and learning activities during the class. Western and Mignon 27 state that lesson plan is an important aspect the must do the by teacher. Also, good classroom management start with planning the course of book and syllabus. In this research, most of the teachers prepared their course book and used other sources of English learning such as other paint material, video, and songs to add material in the textbooks. Managing class communication and taking time was done by teachers in managing large classes. Classroom communication exists for giving a recitement message through verbal, non-verbal language. In majority, the student possibly provide the strategies used by the English teachers in managing large classes. They found that the strategies were helpful for them in learning English. The score helped better understand, practice mutual respect, and enjoy the lesson. Additionally, it was a booth that the student respect and obey the teachers and classroom rules listen to and respect the teachers is important for students to realize knowledge and attitude. This educated that teachers strongly could create a good learning atmosphere for the students. Conclusion: English teachers in managing large classes and use several strategies. The strategies were planning the lesson, organizing and controlling the student, managing classroom communication and taking time, giving writing and timely feedback on students' work. The majority of the students positively perceive toward the strategies used by the English teacher in managing large classes. They found that the strategies were helpful for them learning English. This perfection should be considered determine of student attitude toward learning and effective teacher teaching practice in large classes. Although there is not best way to teach large classes, it may be good to review teaching strategies. This study address the difficulty of teaching English in large class setting. I think that's all. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.